to the sound. To the sound.
All right, welcome. It is Sunday. Sunday is generally a day for Sunday school and churches and all that stuff. But to the non-believer, I don't know what we do besides maybe watch football and eat pizza. But today, I thought about going over some stuff that I put on Facebook because I write a lot on Facebook groups, but I don't put it out on my blog and I don't put it out on other places. And so unless you're in that Facebook group, you know, you're never going to see any of this stuff. So I thought that, hey, let's have a Sunday where I may just go into a Facebook group that I have here that has, I don't know, like 23,000 people or something like that. I think one of them has. And just kind of talk about some of the stuff that I put out for arguments, not necessarily for or against atheism, but just to get people more familiar with the arguments out there, whether it be ontological arguments or cosmological arguments or arguments against creationism, or even arguments, quote, for creationism that people can point out the obvious glaring issues with them, or if they don't know how to point out the obvious glaring issues with them, they can watch this channel and find, you know, some of the obviously glaring issues with them, or there's, you know, dozens of channels out there for that. But anyways, it is an open panel. If you want to join, the link is pinned to the top there. Come on in. I'm just going to start this off with this particular Facebook group that I'm in and go over some of the arguments that I've talked about in there. Let me see who's all out there. Make sure that you can hear me. I didn't even check the audio. My apologies. I had some technical difficulties and stuff before I came in. So if you can hear me, let me know. If not, well, then you don't know what I'm saying, and I have no way to verify other than my audio meter. So anyways, let's start this off. So here we go. So this is something that I talked about the other day in a Facebook group that was basically on Jason Lyles, Dr. Jason Lyles. He's with Answers in Genesis, Creation.com, Creation Ministries International, all of them. I mean, they basically just recycle the people that have actual PhDs because they use them to bolster their arguments. They use them to add an air of credibility, even though that all the official PhDs that work for the creationist organizations, they all use deep time to get their PhDs. Every single one of them. They used, whether you're Snelling or Austin or Lyle, they all use deep time. They all had to. And people can say, well, they had to do that to get their PhD, but that actually shows that they actually understand the subject matter. I mean, if you get a PhD, you clearly have to know the subject matter. And so, the problem with them having their PhD is when they get their PhD, they kind of throw it away and in lieu of their own personal beliefs, right? They want to put out there that, hey, look, we believe the creationist models work. We believe that creation mandates that the earth is only 6,000 to 7,000 years old. And because of that, we're going to basically throw away everything we learned in college and university level. So I mean, I don't know. I think Guts Gibbons did a masterful job in one of her videos talking about cognitive dissonance. Matter of fact, she used Jason Lyle as an example of cognitive dissonance. That him having an actual PhD in astrophysics demonstrates that he has a proficiency on it, more than a proficiency, an expertise, and that he's using this expertise to kind of get the believer to continue to believe, misleading people a little bit. I mean, he puts out here's the thing though. Here's what he put. What's funny is he puts out on his arguments the asynchronous anisotropic synchronicity convention. It's not like the argument's wrong. That's the funniest thing. He's using philosophy, and so I think he has to actually know that he's manipulating people in some way to try to keep them from belief or keep them from like falling away, keep them from having unbelief, because he knows this is a long-standing issue in physics, and it's not even a physics issue. It's more of a philosophical issue. So this is what I wrote about it. I'm going to read it. Okay, one sec. Hopefully you guys can see that and read that outside. And it says, another argument often brought up by creationists is Dr. Jason Lyle's anisotropic synchrony convention. Synchrony. it's synchronicity, but whatever. Synchrony convention to try to resolve the distant starlight problem that young Earth creationists, I don't know why I put apostrophe there. Yeah, it should not be apostrophe, but whatever. Have because they believe the entire universe was created only 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. And the distant starlight problem is basically, how do younger creationists reconcile that these stars are billions of light years away? Now, of course, there's other ones that are just, a couple light years away, or 4 light years away for Alpha Centauri. Other ones are hundreds, and some of them are thousands, but we do see some that are billion light years away. So how do we see them if they're billions of light years away? If the universe was created 7,000 years ago, how do they get billion, light years away? How does the light travel a billion years to get to us if they're a billion light years away, if the universe was only created, let's say, 7,000 years ago? This is a huge problem with younger creationism called the distant starlight problem. So Dr. Jason Lyles decided to try to explain it away using a kind of a loophole in relativity, so to speak. Which doesn't actually resolve the problem, but we'll get into that. But it is something that, younger creationists could go to and say, oh, look, here, this supports younger creationism. It doesn't. It's just a way of looking at things, which is a little bit different. But I go on to say the problem is that the ASC argument isn't a scientific argument. It is a philosophical one. Lyle is actually correct in his argument, but his conclusion is false. General relativity allows for one-way speed of light to be infinite, so long as the opposite travel path is 1/2 c. This makes the entire travel path the value of c and doesn't violate any physical laws. And so Einstein has what he called it's basically an isotropic synchronicity convention, where light travels the same speed in every direction from every observation point. So light traveling from a star to us will travel at the speed of light, c. Light from us will travel to the star at the speed of light, c. Now, this isn't a convention. The reason why this is a convention is because there's no reason to assume or take an axiom that's non-parsimonious. In other words, you don't multiply your entities unnecessarily, meaning you don't take axioms you don't need in order to explain something. You don't need to have axioms out there that say light travels different velocities at different locations to each observer. Why would you think that light would travel in the direction from the star to us at one speed and light from us to the star at a different speed? Could you mathematically make it work? Yes. Would it be violating any laws of physics? No. And I say the problem is that the ASC argument isn't a scientific argument. It is a philosophical one. Lyle is actually correct in his argument, but his conclusion is false. General relativity allows for one-way speed of light to be infinite, so long as I just read that one. Okay, I'm sorry. And let me explain the math here. So basically, if the light from the star was instant to us, in other words, we're seeing the stars in real time, as if they instantly. So if something would happen, if a star was to go nova right now in the universe, we would see it instantaneously. But light from us to it takes half the speed of light. So the total travel path divided by the time is going to be equal to c. So it doesn't violate anything. Now it seems counterintuitive, right? It seems odd. We'll be like, wait a minute. So we're looking at the universe as it is instantly? Okay, but that doesn't really explain how, if the universe is 7,000 years old, how these stars got to be billions of light years away, because the distances doesn't change, and nor does it explain the type of elements we find in these stars. The types of elements we find in these stars, in our stellar modeling, would indicate that these are relatively young stars. In other words, we're seeing them as they were billions of years ago in the past. The further you look out into space, the more deeper in time you see. And so they would have to come up with all these cosmic modeling to explain the types of stars we're seeing, the population stars. In other words, they would have to throw away everything we know about cosmogony, cosmology, astrophysics, and reinvent the wheel, so to speak, from scratch, which they haven't done. They haven't done it all. In fact, they have no modeling for any of that stuff. And so to adopt such a convention would require throwing away pretty much everything we know about these types of topics. And so I go on to say, example, assume a star is 10 light years away. This means it takes light 10 years to reach Earth and 10 years for light to reach Earth to reach a star. If, however, light from the star reaches Earth instantaneously, and the light from Earth to the star is 1/2 c, then you have the average of c, so it is taking now twice as long to get there. However, the Poincare-Einstein synchronicity convention maintains that c is the same for all observers, so it is an isotropic synchronization convention, which means that light is the same from all directions. Both are conventions, but which one is parsimonious? Why would light travel in such a way that there is some preferred direction of instantaneous travel? Why would we think that we are literally seeing stars billions of light years away as they currently are now? This would mean that young creationists have to develop an entirely novel approach to stellar formation, account for elements in the stars which are current models are explainable for early generation stars, and pretty much rewrite most of I should change this, rewrite of all of cosmology and cosmogony to be able to explain the cosmic background radiation instantly traveling to us in real time. Because we talked about the cosmic background radiation the other day when I had I think was it Gnostic Informant and Grayson I had, and that is the remnants of the initial conditions of the Big Bang during inflation. It is basically a frozen snapshot of quantum fluctuations. This causes the temperature differentiations that we see in the cosmic background radiation. And so that would have to be traveling to us in instant time, which makes no sense. It would be akin to arguing the Earth is the center of the solar system by merely changing convention by using Galilean transforms. Galilean transforms are just ways of changing vector forms. In other words, if I want to say the Earth is the center of the solar system, I could put the center of the solar system as the Earth and then change all the vectors to using transformations to have every single object in the solar system revolving around the Earth. This you can do, but it would require advanced mathematics to do it because it's very complicated. But you can do it. Well, I mean, I don't say that. I don't say it require advanced mathematics. It's just not that hard. But it would require these things called epicycles. It would make it much more complicated. Mathematically, it would work, but we'd end up with a far, far more complicated mathematics that would involve epicycles upon epicycles, rather than just use the more parsimonious convention of a heliocentric model with elliptical orbits. We can model the solar system by elliptical orbits. Every planet revolves around the sun in an elliptical fashion. It's clearly not a perfect circle. If it was a perfect circle, it'd be very interesting because that would be like, wow. I mean, but it's not. It has a degree of elongation or elliptical elongation. And Kepler's third law actually points this out, that the period of the orbit is related to the area that it sweeps out over time, right? And so we can model these things very easily using elliptical orbits. To model it as what it would look like if the Earth was the center of these things would be just a spiral upon spiral upon spiral, which would make it, again, very complicated. And why would you want to do that? If it's not parsimonious, you don't use it. I say Lyell is merely exploiting a well-known issue in relativity that the one-way speed of light is immeasurable. It doesn't make young Earth creationism any more likely, and only far more complicates things because young creationists still have to explain why stellar formation of stars billions of light years away appear to be very young stars. Young creationism is proven by so many branches of science that Lyell Escapes Hatch does nothing but acknowledge we have different conventions we can use in modeling, but gives us absolutely no reason to accept this convention other than God done did it. Now, my posts tend to get some comments, engagement in these Facebook groups. Do you want to view this in the Facebook group and go over those, or do you just want to talk about my post? Let me know in the live chat what you guys prefer. I didn't even check. I'm sorry. So, well, let's view it in group. Let's see what. Let's go with view more comments and see what they have to say on it. This is a public group, by the way. So, Michael says, like I said, this is all public group. So, why the one-way speed of light cannot actually go to? Let me go to most recent. This is by David. The speed of light is not measurable is because the speed of light becomes undefined. Not sure what he means by that. The Lorentz transformations we have for a denominator of 0 when v equals c equals 2. Well, Lorentz transformations only really have any kind of effect when you start getting near relativistic speeds. At low velocities, the Lorentz transformations or the time dilation is essentially 0. You really have no notable effect. And so I don't know what he means by denominator of 0. The Jack Webb telescope, I don't think that's right. The telescope had to disprove the convention that the more stars are younger. It's James Webb, by the way. James Webb telescope, David, has disproved the convention that the more distant stars are younger than the closer stars. No, the James Webb telescope didn't disprove that. Now, there are some stars out there that have probably elements that we can't quite explain yet. Kid Maki says, he doesn't need to go to Facebook. Okay, that's cool. I'll just read this one and then I'll go back to the other thing. This is the typical Kimomaki of the response that I get, right? I don't know what they mean by denominator being 0 there. I don't know what they mean by the, quote, Jack Webb telescope, because, again, it's James Webb. He says, this doesn't prove the existence of God, but it's evidence that can be used as the argument for the existence of God. No, it really isn't, because it has nothing to do with God. It has to do with cosmogony, the formation of the universe. If we find that stars have very high elements in them that shouldn't exist, we would have to kind of relook at our modeling, which is not too impossible. It's just that we wouldn't expect to find high amounts of iron or, even elements like uranium and thorium in stars because, the remnants of stars, because they haven't used up all their elements yet. They haven't gone supernova. If we're looking back to where the universe was only 100 million years old, it would be kind of hard to find stars that would have already gone supernova unless they use their hydrogen up very, very quickly. And again, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it'd be not what we would expect. I mean, if a star is, a couple hundred millions of years old, and you would expect it to have hydrogen, helium, right? And then it starts getting into beryllium, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen cycle, nickel, and then finally, silicon, and then finally, iron. And iron doesn't fuse. So as soon as you start hitting iron, then the photon, I guess it's the photon pressure. No, I'm sorry, it's gamma ray pressure. Those are photons, but it's specifically called gamma ray pressure, is being balanced out by gravity. And when you start losing that gamma ray pressure, gravity is going to take over, the star is going to collapse, and you go nova. These produce the heavier elements, right? The uranium, the thorium, all the technetium, promethium, strontium, all these heavier elements are produced in stars when they explode. So the Jack Webb started the Dragnet series. That was named after the Dragnet series. Clearly, yeah. That was yes. The naturalistic alternative to theism requires an eternal material universe. Why does it have to be eternal? I don't see how that falls. The size of the universe cannot be used as evidence of time, as time is relative. Well, time is relative as far as trying to measure when an event happens, right? Different observers are going to say that different things happen at different times, especially when you're dealing with more relativistic travels. This is the problem when you're going at the speed of light or faster than the speed of light. Let's see who's joining here. Hi, Mr. Max.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man?
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Let me finish this little thing here, and then I'll get right with you. Sound good?
Sure.
The empirical evidence of against argues an eternal material universe. I don't see his argument there. Let me go back. So let me go back here. Go back to my thing here. Let's see here. All right. So I don't know what that guy was saying. This is the type of response that I get, though. It's kind of hard for me to parse out because it doesn't make any real sense. But again, I was going to explain real quick, then I'll get Max in here. If we start traveling at the speed of light or faster, it in every case implies time travel. This has been demonstrated. This is a proof. This is conclusive. If you travel at the speed of light or faster, you have to invoke time travel. because you get a messages sent before they were even sent or received before they were even sent. This presents a problem. I personally believe that time travel is impossible to the past. I think there's physical reasons why. I think there's entropic laws. I think there's a lot of reasons why that we cannot travel to the past. And if physicists ever find a way to do it, brilliant. But for some reason, I think the universe prevents that. But we can travel as far as forward as we want anytime we want. We can develop technology where we can go a billion years in the future instantaneously. We would survive. But the problem is you couldn't go back and tell anybody about it. So anyways, what you got for us, Max?
Yeah. I want to ask, are you an atheist?
I am an agnostic, so I'm an unbeliever, but I'm not an atheist.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been in a lot of streams with religious people, and I asked them why do they believe. I'm an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked them why do they believe in God and all that debate. You know what usually ends up happening? Either they throw me out of the stream, or they start abusing me. They call me a fool, an uneducated person, or a stupid person. Like these are the two outcomes of whenever I talk to someone who believes in God. Like,
Why would they want you to call? Okay, but that doesn't make sense. I believe you, but why would they want you to talk to them if all they're going to do is berate you?
yeah, because usually they don't encounter atheists, and when I ask questions, I ask follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they say that God created universe, and that's universe is the proof that God created it, I ask them, then who created God? They say God is eternal. I say that universe is eternal, and God is not eternal. So one of us is lying. Who is lying? Can you prove God is eternal? Because that is only an assumption.
Well,
And if you want to put an assumption,
they can't assume that. And here's for the theist, right? The theist can posit a God that is a necessary being. And if they posit a God that is a necessary being, then it does. They're right that it makes no sense to ask them what created that God, because it has to exist in all possible worlds. And so, the justification would be like, well, why is this God necessary? And they could argue for that, and we could reject that, of course. But most theists that I've ever talked to, they do posit a God that is necessary, or at least what's called neurologically contingent, like Richard Swinburne argues, which is a form of necessity, but only on a local scope. But when they posit a God and they say God is metaphysically necessary, that means that they're saying that it exists in all possible worlds. And yes, they're assuming that as part of Reformed epistemology from Plantinga. But the problem
with their assumption.
Yeah, it's an assumption.
Yeah, sure. But the problem with their assumption is, with that assumption, they also bring hell and heaven. They also bring sin. They try to control humans that you can't do this, you can't do that, otherwise you'll go to hell. I don't mind if people believe in Santa Claus, because Santa Claus says if you are a good boy, you'll get a gift. If you're not a good boy, you'll not get a gift. He only gives positive reinforcements, right? But when you say that there's an eternal God, then you also automatically create sin, you create hell, you create heaven, and you try to control the population. That is where I have the problem with God. I actually don't have a problem with God. And the people who actually are religious, I appreciate them, because they have like some strength in dark times. When they go through dark times, they have like superpower of God that they'll struggle through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but you're talking about the Christian God, or at least a variation of the Christian God. Not all gods have that, right? But when it comes to the Christian God, yeah, and there are two types of, there's many different types of Christians, but the primary groups of Christians that I've run into, the ones that I respect, they don't use argumentum ad baculum. They don't use the argument, believe like me or you're condemned for eternity or you're going to hell, because that's not convincing to anyone. That has clearly the backfire or entrenchment effect. And
I went into a Christian channel, and they said that if you don't worship Jesus, you'll go to hell. This actually happened. I have the link to that video.
Yeah, no, we all have that. I mean, but here's the thing with that, though. That is a fallacy, right? That's called argumentum ad baculum. And so think about this way, Max. When you're talking to a Christian that's arguing by using fallacies, what's the likelihood of that God is going to be existing, or what's the likelihood of that God is going to appreciate that? I don't think, at least not an omnibenevolent God. An omnibenevolent God, an omniscient God, one that is both all-knowing and all good, is not going to use fallacies in order to try to manipulate people to believing that he exists. Now, the Christian God in Thessalonians actually sends strong delusions of people, right? The Christian God has been known to send delusions of people to get them to believe something, which to me doesn't make much sense for an all-loving God, all-powerful, omnibenevolent being. But be that it is may, if they can justify that, if the person, the human, is using a fallacy to try to convince you, then they have a bad argument. That's sophistry.
Okay, so you seem to me like a very patient and intelligent person. Okay, you analyze things very well.
That's what I
Why are
do.
you
Yeah.
agnostic? Yeah, why are you agnostic and not atheist? Like, how do you end up being agnostic?
Great question. So yeah, I take it you have not heard. I'm just going to sound bad. I don't mean to, but you haven't heard of me before.
No, I haven't. This is the first time I've
Cool. I've been telling people look me up on Chat GPT or Bing AI. I have some pretty well-known arguments out there. But I also do the show, the Non Sequitur Show. Did it ring a bell?
No, I haven't.
No worries. And it's a great question, though. The reason why I'm agnostic is because I take it from a much more philosophical grounding. That I believe that while we have to explain everything by methodological naturalism and science, I cannot explain the universe as a whole in any way, shape, or form that can exclude some kind of intelligence, at least some kind of explanation that's beyond our level to understand. And I've had personal experiences that I cannot experience. I can't explain. They're just ineffable. I cannot really even put them into words, so to speak. So I'm just suspending judgment until I get more information. Right? I'll say like the Christian God, the way most Christians put out doesn't exist. The flood never happened. Adam and Eve never happened. These are stories. There's a myth. These are Jewish traditions that have passed down. I'll say all that. But as far as the absolute metaphysical truth of the universe, I have to remain agnostic because I just cannot, with good conscience, come to a conclusion of what the actual explanation is. Does it make sense?
Okay, then I have a few questions for you. This actually made it more interesting. So, do you believe in a higher power who created the universe, or you are waiting for an answer for that?
No, I haven't.
No, okay.
No, I haven't.
Do you believe that we go somewhere after we die, or if we die, we just die?
We just
nothingness.
Right now, I'm pretty much convinced we just die. We go back to where you existed, whatever that would be, prior to your birth.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is exactly what I say. So basically, if you get answers, I think most likely you'll become an atheist. But if you get evidence for God, you'll definitely believe. You just don't care. You just need answers. You're just waiting for it, right?
Yeah, I'm what's called a non-resistant non-believer in the divine hiddenness argument, and I'm also more apathetic because I've been doing this for a lot of years. Like I said, put my name in any kind of artificial intelligence, and it comes up. It actually has my arguments out there. It's pretty scary. I did it the other day, and actually I have what's called the atheist semantic collapse argument, and it knew my argument better than 95% of the atheists I know. That's
perfect.
scary.
I didn't know that. It's pleasure. You know what? I've been talking on God streams for the past few hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking to you right now. It's so easy to talk to you. Everyone gets so much irritated when I ask difficult questions about God.
I live for this stuff. I live for those kind of questions. That's what my head. I have 10 million views across YouTube. I mean,
nice. Good that I stumbled across your channel.
So I mean, I've been. This is. I mean, I don't have a lot of viewers today, but I mean, I had a popular channel that was very, very popular back in the day. But I love for that stuff. My whole show, the Non Sequitur Show, was building a rapport with theists and atheists and talking to experts in the field, PhDs. Talking to like Dr. Lawrence Krauss, Dr. Mary Schweitzer, Dr. Hugh Ross, and so that's what I like. I love questions. I don't think that any questions it should be off limits. And if theists have a program where they invite somebody on, they should expect these types of questions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I have a guy out there in the live chat right now. Christ brings a sword. He's a pretty radical theist. But I allow him to come on. He can bring his shtick. And by the way, Christ brings a sword. The link to join is right up there. Come on in. Come on in.
Yeah, for sure. I won't take much time of yours. I have a question.
Go for no. I got nothing
Have
but
you?
time. It's this is
Oh, perfect, perfect.
University Unbeliever University today. I'm just hanging out, going over my arguments on Facebook. So yeah, knock yourself out.
You know what? Like it feels so light right now just to talk to a person who doesn't get angry at my questions. So
No,
it's a pleasure
I
talking to you.
thank you. I know I do. I love these types of questions. Why would we do shows about atheism or theism or anything like that if we're not going to get questions? I mean, should expect
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. I think I go to religious channel expecting that they'll answer me like peacefully, like not aggressively, and they get aggressive. Anyways, my question is,
Mhm.
have you read the book Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins?
I've been excerpts from it. I'm familiar with his argument, genes and memes. I'm familiar with how he thinks that that genes are going to be more selected for
Yeah.
at the genetic level. Yeah,
Okay.
I've never met
So
Dawkins, but I know a lot of people similar, a
okay,
lot of
so I'll
biologists.
tell you my story in a very short summary, and then I'll ask you your story. Okay.
Sure.
My story is I was an agnostic, but then I was facing some problem in personal life, and I started praying to God, hoping He'll solve this problem. He didn't, so I started cursing God, and then it made me believe that there is no God. Then I started thinking how to solve this problem. I started working on it, and I was able to solve that problem. That made me sure that there is no God. Then I everyone asked, then how are we alive? How are we alive? What is life? I was so curious to know that I read Selfish Gene, and that solved that puzzle of life. Okay, so that solved that puzzle. After that, there was no looking back. I never doubted that there is no God. So for about 15 years, I don't believe there's a God. This is my story. So what was your life story? Like, were you atheist? Were you agnostic forever? Did you change? What happened?
Oh, that's a great story, actually. I was okay. So growing up, I would go to like Christian events in high school, but it was basically for the social aspect. I happen to like the girls. Okay, don't judge me. Um, and I would go to like Mormon Sunday school because my neighbors, well, not quite my neighbors, but people that lived in my area that I went to school with, that were most of my life were Mormon. Um, I eventually joined the church in 2000, not 2000, 1987. I joined the church. And then I left a few years afterwards for various reasons, and I just stopped believing. But I wasn't really raised in any kind of religious family. My mom was Jewish. We had some Jewish traditions. She would do the menorah, things of that nature. My dad was Protestant. My brother was Jehovah's Witness. But I was interested in science all my life. I never really got into philosophy until like a decade or more ago. But I wanted to believe. I mean, I wanted to be like, okay, if this is true. And then I had some experiences that I can't explain. But
Uh,
then later on in life, I'm like, okay, maybe these experiences did have natural phenomenon. And as you said, there's been nothing that has been leading me to believe that there's any kind of divine being. Now, there are some weird things of providence. There are some weird things that happen. And as my mom once told me, she believed that it just seemed like something was watching after her to some degree, or her entire life. And I think we all have that feeling, in some capacity. But as far as like when I see Christians argue that the earth is young, or that if you don't believe you're condemned to hell, that's not a belief that I can never get behind, because it's so counterintuitive to what I would imagine a benevolent
yeah,
being would be like. Uh,
yeah, I agree.
yeah. So the Christians that I know, I did a show with Reasons to Believe for about a year. That was Dr. Hugh
Uh-huh.
Ross and Dr. Fuzz Rana, Dr. Swearink, and Ken Samples. And they have that. They're not necessarily like believers where if you are a non-resistant non-believer, you're automatically screwed. I think they really think that you will be given chances to have redemption, maybe even after you die. I had one of their scholars tell me that, hey, look, I'm saved pretty much because of who I am, and that I haven't actively like done anything to say reject God, knowing that God exists, right? That'd be a little different. And because if God existed, and God existed, and you said, look, I want nothing to do with you, okay, then that's your choice, right? Satan had absolute, if he existed, he had absolute perfect knowledge. But even he said, look, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And he took 1/3 of the host of heavens with him, supposedly, right? So we have much more difficult things. We're stumbling around in the dark. We don't have that kind of divine knowledge. And so is it fair epistemically for a divine being to say, look, you didn't believe you're going to spend eternity in hell? Oh, hell no. That is not a just being. I mean, it's just not. It's ridiculous. So I do believe that there's some kind of deity that is a little bit more benevolent than what a lot of Christians make it out to be. Does that make sense? But that's basically my story. I'm just agnostic in the philosophical sense that I don't have a belief, God exists. I don't believe there isn't a God. It's unbelief. But for all practical purposes, I do lean atheist. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Can I? This is a personal question you can refuse to answer. Can I ask your age?
I've just turned 54.
Oh, nice. It's a breeze talking to you. It's a breeze talking to you. It's so
like
nice.
My
I'm
stuff,
in India.
then. Watch my show. Like I said,
I will.
The non sequitur show. It was a podcast. It was a podcast in the 2017 to 2019, but it had some problems with my partner. But my podcast, we were doing really well. We were a popular channel.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely check your channel out. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Max. No problem.
If you have any questions, you can ask me if you want. But I enjoyed talking to you. It was a pleasure, like really pleasure.
Yeah,
you made my day. Actually, you made my day.
Cool, that's fun. I like that. Well, yeah, pop by. But
I think this will be my last call because I don't want to get stressed anymore.
Where are these other channels at? Because I talk to a lot of the channels too, and most of the time I'll go under my other name, my non sequitur show name, and that's a little more name recognizable, I guess. But I don't really go into the ones that are like doing Bible study because I don't know the Bible very well and I have no interest in it. Theology bores me, but I like philosophy. I love philosophy, especially epistemology. But I don't see a lot of them leaving their little echo chambers. Like I'll go to their stuff. But they'll hardly ever come in here. Hardly ever do I get people.
Yeah,
and the ones that do nut jobs
don't come to. Yeah, they won't. You know what they do? They sit in a hive. They start a channel and they keep 3 or 4 religious people as hosts.
Right, exactly. And my mod says,
and they actually bully the atheist and anyone who goes against them. It's a hive mentality.
Dude, I went to.
I can. You know what?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I went to one not long ago. I've been doing reviews on this one guy's channel made by Jim Bob that puts out some really bad philosophy and science. And I was in their Discord and man, I got treated like crap. And I'm like, really? Like, really, man? But my friend Karasa, he says, he's my moderator, one of my mods. He says, I'd go so far to say that Non Sequitur Show was the channel among budding skeptics community back before the shit show. Yeah. Before you, I mean, my channel was like getting to be, you heard of Modern Day Debate?
No.
Atheist Experience?
Atheist, yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, my channel was not as popular as the Atheist Experience, but we had a lot of similar people and or at least veins. Yeah, I had Matt Dillahunty on, and now he's doing stuff with other skeptics. But I mean, I'm still doing what I'm doing. I still put out what I believe. I still talk about the subjects I want to talk about. But we don't have the old type of hangouts like we used to. Back 10 years ago when the GDC, the Great Debate Community, was around, we would have people just come in and do Google Meets and just 24 hours a day talk about anything you wanted. I haven't seen any atheist channel where religious people are coming and talking to them. So I've seen a lot of religious people talking to other religious people and trying to prove that, Christianity is wrong. No. Islam is wrong. They keep fighting with each other, trying to prove each other wrong. But I haven't seen any atheist channel waiting for religious people to come and prove them wrong. So it's like you're an agnostic. And I'm not even interested. I don't really want theists to come in here and try to, preach or try to convince me. What I would like is just to talk about why they believe what they believe and maybe talk about their justifications for it. Because I'm very much anti-young Earth creationist. I mentioned in the Journal Creation as a opponent to young Earth creationism, and I think that affects our school system. When you start, undermining everything we know about physics and science to try to justify a belief that the Earth is 7,000 years old, you're doing a disservice to our future, to our future generations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. This is a question that I like asking agnostic people.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of life?
I do like the existentialist point of view that we give our lives our own meaning. I do think there is still an intrinsic quality of value axiologically that when we are somebody that's alive, we have an obligation to society. We have an obligation to our offspring. So when we talk about purpose, our purpose is to basically contribute to be productive in society. Our purpose is to have offspring, but not necessarily you have to, but I mean that is one of the purposes as a biological entity. But I think we give our own life value. I think there's some intrinsic value though. I think because it's so ephemeral, I think that because our lives are so fleeting, that in itself, because of the scarcity of it, gives it value. But as far as purpose,
Yeah, okay.
our purpose is to live a good life. I mean, if you want to go into the more of the Epicurean type view.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. For me, I believe that the only purpose is survival and passing on the gene, and
Yeah,
even if you fail in that, that's fine. So we
yeah,
end
I
up.
agree.
So with this theory, we end up with a limited period of time on Earth. So it's like you have 70 years, maybe 30 years. You have limited time. Spend the way you want to spend, and there is nothing wrong and right. So even if you fail to reproduce and pass on the gene, it's okay. The only thing is, as long as you're alive, you should do whatever you want. You should be happy. You shouldn't suffer. You should struggle. You shouldn't suffer.
No, I
This is
agree
this
with
is
you.
my
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't go as far as like hedonism, because hedonism is very selfish. But I agree with you that we should be kind to people. And unfortunately, I have not been. I've had people kind to me. I mean, I've had a lot of kind people in my life. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of people that I still know, but I've had people
Uh-huh.
that tried to hurt me. A lot of
Yeah.
people that have hurt my friends and people I care about, which had major effects on the community, and it sucked.
Uh-huh.
It sucks because they were dishonest, they were disreputable,
Yeah.
they lied, they went out of their way to harm people. I don't think that's a purpose in life. If everybody's purpose was to go out and do evil and harm people, society would not be functional. So to me,
Yeah.
it's axiomatic that if you ask about purpose, that is to do the antithesis of harm. It is to help and be kind to people, and I've always tried to do that. And my friends and people that have known me now have recognized that, and I think the world of them because people have known I've been sick. I've been very, very sick in the last 8 months. Not terminal, but I mean it's just very uncomfortable. And I still have people that are constantly attacking me, and
Uh-huh.
it's it just sucks because when you're not feeling well, and you still have
Yeah.
people attacking you, they're only
Yeah.
going out of
I
their way to
agree.
harm you. You know,
Yeah. I
yeah,
agree. I
yeah.
agree.
So yeah, I think
Like
that
attacking you when you're down. I'm sorry that you're not well right now. I hope
I thank you.
you get well soon. Yeah.
And it just runs in my family. My brother passed away of colon cancer. My cousin has stage 4 cancer right now. Just talked to her the other day. She has already lost I think one of her kidneys. And you get older. Things happen.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's funny though, and like I said, I have not been diagnosed with cancer. I'm not putting that out there, but I mean, I am under medical care. I do need some more testing and stuff like that for other things. But whether when you get sick and for a long period of time, and I think I can't prove that I had the coof, but I think that I definitely did, and it exacerbated some stuff because it definitely got worse after that. But I think that when that happens to you, man, you do appreciate the things in life more. I mean, I have an 18-year-old daughter who I just is my world, and I want nothing but the best for her, and I will do anything
Mhm.
for her, and that to me, like you said with the selfish gene, I've passed that on. I've given her the
Yeah.
skill set to be a good person, and I'm defending myself still against people that one day would all come out that yeah, Steve was right, because I've always been right in this stuff, and people later on go, shit, Steve was right. I should have believed him, but I want my daughter to know if anything does ever happen to me that her father was a good and honest person. That's my main goal, and I've been fighting tooth and nail to do that for quite some time.
Nice, nice. I have two questions for you.
Go ahead.
Are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So before I die, I want to ride a super bike, like a 600cc super bike.
Good grief, no.
So what is that one thing that you want to do before dying that you haven't done yet?
Well, first of all, I think you're crazy for 600cc. Those things are just no. 150cc is my tops, dude. I can't even ride a 450. Yeah, I know. I like a little. People laugh. You laugh, but 150cc bike is fun. It's fun, right?
Yeah.
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 But one thing I want to do, I want to travel. I love traveling. I was in the Navy for 6 years. I was a naval nuclear propulsion student. I trained people to operate nuclear power plants. And I got to see the world. I got to go to Australia. I got to go to the Philippines, Thailand, Hawaii. And so, I don't know. I just, maybe travel. I don't have any like goals to like parachute, skydive or something like that. Maybe if I okay, I wouldn't mind trying to fly a Cessna.
Flying a what?
A Cessna. A Cessna plane.
What's that?
A Cessna. It's a type of plane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So
that's a good wish. That's a good wish.
I think that a Cessna 172 would be within my range because I do like the flight sims. But I obviously wouldn't want to do it alone. But I mean, just to go up there with a qualified pilot and be able to just try to fly it for like a while, with knowing that it was not going to like crash because
Yeah.
But I think that if I had to think something what I want to do, that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so I'll ask my second question.
Oh,
okay?
and marry Selma Hayek. That would be, yeah. If we're gonna go big, we might as well go big time, right?
Who wouldn't want that?
Right?
Wouldn't want that?
I think she's
What?
like, dude, right? I think she's like 58 now, and I swear to God, she's perfect. She's perfect.
For her age doesn't matter. We don't care about her age.
Nope.
We don't care.
Nope. Selma Hayek. I saw some of her shoots not too long ago, and I'm like, holy God Almighty, there might be a God because I believe in beauty. I believe in aesthetics. And I was going to do a show on argument for beauty. But, I mean, holy moly, man. Go ahead. Sorry,
Okay, my second
sidetrack there.
Yeah, no. All good. So my second question is that the only thing that I want to know before I die is there life on any other planet?
Me
because
too.
that will prove that we are not alone.
Oh, okay.
What?
Me too. I would. Okay. And here's the thing. Would you be satisfied to know if there's just life on another planet, or do you be satisfied to know if there's intelligent life on another planet? I mean, I would be nice to know either, but just life.
Yeah, just life. Because if we find life on any of the planet, that means the life is abundant in the universe, and there should be intelligent life on other planets.
You would think so.
Yeah, but yeah, why not? Because like the universe is there for billions of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are billions and billions, I think trillions of planets in the universe, and that to an observable universe. We don't know what's out there. We haven't even explored the whole universe. My point is, if there's life on any other planet, even unintelligent life, this proves that life is abundant in the universe, and that then there should be intelligent life. There should be, but I don't care if there's intelligent life or not. I just want to know that we are not alone. That's all I want to know.
I think that look, I think if we ever discovered intelligent life out there, it would just change the landscape of religiosity completely. I would like to know if there's intelligent life. Now, I'll be happy to know there's just living creatures on another planet. But I think that if we're going to have a major paradigm shift, it's going to be determining if there's life in the universe or not. And once we know there's life, and once we discovered it and interacted with it, especially intelligence, life as we know it on the earth, it will never be the same.
Yeah, I agree. So before dying, that's the only answer. That's the only answer to the question I want to know. What is your one question you want to know before you die?
No, I agree.
Like,
that's me, without question, without hesitation. I would. But I would like to know if there's intelligent life out there. I mean, not just life.
Yeah.
That's good. Don't get me wrong, and that would really be amazing.
No, I get you.
But,
I get
but
you. I
intelligent
get you.
life. Because I mean, if
Yeah.
aliens exist, think about their technology they have, right? I've always pondered.
Yeah.
Look, I was into like electronics way back when, right? I was a Radio Shack store manager for many years, and so I did
Yeah.
these little breadboard projects with TTLs and LEDs, all the cool stuff that people do when they like electronics, right? And I
Yeah.
was always thought to myself, these electronics are built by humans. In other words, for make a capacitor, you know, we have the electrolytics, we have the foil, we put them together. Resistors are going to be have from carbon. We put these things together. What would alien electronics be like?
Yeah.
Because it has to be based on the same principles of induction and resistance.
I agree.
I
agree.
love that kind of question because we have learned that the universe has certain laws relating to electricity and electromagnetism and Faraday's laws and Kirchhoff's voltage and current laws. We have described the conditions of the universe such that we can send a signal millions or whatever miles away. Not billions, but I mean, we can communicate in real time like we're doing now. This means that the universe allows for this. This means if we discovered it, some other civilization could discover it. But would they be able to? Because they're not going to be exactly like us. They're not going to be have these fingers like we are, right? They're not going to have like
I agree.
the thoughts we have. How are they going to make use of the fact that the universe can have these things? I think that's a very philosophical question.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree.
And so, do I think we've been visited? No, though. I don't think we've ever been visited. I don't think.
No, I don't believe we have been visited. That's all fake.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Steve. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Max.
I'm gonna sign off now.
Yep. Where you at? Where are you calling from, by the way?
I'm calling from India.
What time is it over there?
It's 7 a.m.
Oh my goodness! You just started your day, dude. You just got up.
Good morning, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning. Or you been did you just get up, or you've been up all night?
I've been up all night.
Oh, you need to get some sleep, man.
Yeah. It was really nice talking to you.
Likewise,
I can now
pleasure.
go to sleep in peace.
Yes, likewise, my friend. I appreciate it very much. Stop by anytime. This channel and the Non Sequitur Show. Go check it out. You'll see. You'll find it. But I do these like once a week or something.
Yeah, for sure. I've sent a link in the chat. That's the video I was doing before I called you, and they bashed me in that video. If just in case if you want to check, if you don't want to check, that's fine.
Wait, are they live? Are they live?
Yeah, I think they are live right now.
Let me see the chat. Let me look here.
I got bashed there and then came here.
All right, I'll check it out.
All right. Take care, huh? Bye-bye.
Thank you, Max. Let me see let me check this out. Let me see what they got over there. I'm now curious. I don't want to stream them though, because I don't know what they've got. So let me do this real quick. So let me mute the outside there and let me click this link and see what's going on. Ramadan Reminders it's called. Oh, it's about Ramadan. They got 91 people watching. Interesting. Dawa over Duya or something. Yeah, it looks like it's Muslim, Islamic, which I know nothing about. They got 155,000 subscribers. Interesting. But the thing is that I wouldn't know anything about those topics, right? I don't know anything about Islam whatsoever at all. I just don't. People could tell me that something's in the Quran, and I'd be like, okay, I have no idea. I mean, the other day I watched a short with Arn Ra against an Islam guy, and the Arn Ra was arguing that in the Quran that it's allowed to beat your wife, and the Muslim was saying no, it's not in there. And when I went to go look, it appeared that it was in there, but you know, I again, I've never read the Quran. All right, but anyways, that was interesting. That's fun. I like when people come in like that. That makes my day. That makes me confident that there are critical thinkers out there. There are people that are just willing to have the conversation and ask legitimate questions. And my motto has always been, as you guys know, honest interlocutors get honest questions. The rest get blocked. I don't have time or the patience for them any longer. I'm no longer defending myself on air for anything. People can just F off. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the mental, the physical ability any longer to do that. And I won't be doing it. My health comes first, and I have to put that first. And anybody who wants to antagonize me will get blocked. Period. End of story. I've long since defended myself and proven every single time that I've always put out the truth. And if somebody does want to believe that, they can just F off. That's it. Done. F off. F off. I'd rather talk about the subjects. I'd rather talk about the science, and that's my therapy. That's how I keep my mental acuity. That's how I keep, my cognitive abilities. That is how I feel better about myself, is that I've allowed on a platform that I've developed and cultivated over a decade to talk about what I want to talk about. And anybody who doesn't want to talk about those things doesn't have to do it. They can go somewhere else. It's pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. Anyways, so, but I'm still streaming. So let me go back to my Facebook thing here real quick. 1 second here. What am I doing here? Oh, hang on. There we go. All right. So let me go back to this. I'm sorry, live chat. I wasn't ignoring you guys. I'm not. I apologize. Thank you. Vermer says, I hope you get well soon. I appreciate it. It's been a while. It's been several months. If not, it's been over half a year at least. And so I don't see it getting better. But I still have more testing to do. I have to go for some scans and some other stuff. It's gotten to the point where it's chronic. And so, yeah, it's definitely deteriorating. But I'm not on any medication yet or anything. Not until I go back on the 18th in 8 days to get my results of my blood work, which is usually pretty good. But I think there's some other things that might be popping up. Anyways, but I appreciate your kind words. All right, so here I posted in the group here about when I had my talk with Catherine Cook, but it's funny because here, I put this in the group, right? And this is Evolution and Creation is Open Debate, which is a public group, so everything out there is public. It's not a private group. And I asked this question: is a human chromosome 2 a fusion evidence of human evolution? And most people responding were just like, oh, if you got to ask the question, you're an idiot because you're, thinking that I was a creationist. I'm like, no, I'm not a creationist, right? I mean, I didn't think about it that they're going to think that, and I think they know me in these groups by now. Most of them do. I've been in these groups for ages. I'm like, why would anybody think that I'm a creationist when almost every post I put out there is promoting evolution and anti-creationism? And yet on this particular post, I had people arguing, oh, no dumbass kind of shit. I'm like, oh man. But it goes to what's called the Betteridge's Law of Headlines. And Betteridge's Law of Headlines basically states that in a news publication, that if you ask the question, or you say a headline in the form of a question, almost always the answer is no. But in this particular case, it clearly is yes, right? But I think that's where they get that from. All right, let's see what else do I write. Let's see. I wrote this one. So what do you guys think of this? Oh, this is about radiometric decay. Okay, so I say, why the young Earth creationist model is scientifically disproved. While it's an assumption that radiometric decay rates are constant, if not influenced by external factors, it is not an assumption that has evidence for being inaccurate. It is not an assumption that has any evidence for being an inaccurate assumption. Merely saying that an assumption can be wrong is a throwaway sentence that isn't a demonstration that the assumption is actually wrong. Scientists grant assumptions can be wrong, but if you can't show they are wrong or give any evidence to indicate they are wrong, then you're not doing science. You're doing sophistic skepticism. And I've seen this quite a bit. I see this all the time on creationist web pages, on YouTube channels, that they just say, well, you could be wrong. So what? That's not an argument. The assumptions are wrong. They could be wrong. You have to make those assumptions. Yes, so what? That's not an argument. When you're arguing with somebody who says your assumption could be wrong, yeah, so what? Why is the assumption wrong? I tell theists all the time that their assumptions not just can be wrong, but are wrong, and explain why they're wrong. They don't do that with my assumptions. They don't explain to me why my assumption that reality is something that is actually something that exists is wrong. They don't explain to me that my assumption that induction will continue to work day after day is wrong, even if I can't justify it. They're like, well, you can't justify that. No kidding, neither can you. They're, well, we have God to justify it. That's not a justification. So when you have these people saying, well, decay rates could have changed, well, yeah, flying monkeys could fly out my ass and spit silver dollars and fart rainbows, but the chances are extremely unlikely. Just because something's possible doesn't mean you have to accept it as the case or have good reason to accept it as the case. It just bloats your ontology to believe that flying monkeys are going to fly up my ass right now, or that even flying monkeys exist. So if you're going to tell me that decay rates are going to change or have the ability to change, show me how. And there are actual reasons why things will decay differently, but it's not changing the decay rate. It's changing how fast something decays, but it's not changing the constant. The constant is what's fixed. That means under no other influence, the decay rate's always going to be the same. If you start adding in high pressures, then there are times where you can have something decay at a different rate. That is true. We've seen that in beryllium. Beryllium has special instances where it can decay a lot faster. I think it's beryllium 8, if I'm not mistaken. And I say, for example, compression from a high pressure can cause electron capture, causing radiometric decay. I don't know why I say for example twice. For example, but the actual constant does not change. This, however, is usually as a variance of less than 2%, which is not very large difference in K rates. Young creationists often posit I don't know why I keep apostrophizing young creationists, but whatever. Often posit a global flood that caused accelerated decay, which would have no known ability to change decay rates or even influence them in any way. The supposition that the global flood changed decay rates to explain away the heat problem is called, this would be ad hoc explanation with absolutely no scientific evidence to support it. I would change these, but they have to be approved, and I'm not going to bother to correct the minor grammatical issues. And so, in order to justify a belief in young Earth creationism, they have to at least try to have explanations to why the Earth did not liquefy because of the amount of energy required to explain how much energy is released from uranium-235, uranium-238, thorium-232, and potassium-40. Those are your four main nucleotides. It's not nucleotides, nuclear radiotides in physics. These are things that generates a lot of heat in the crust and the upper mantle. Most of the heat, if not almost all the heat that we feel on the crust, is from these radioactive materials. Other ones are obviously from magma flows, but I mean, the majority of heat that is in the Earth's crust is from radiometric decay. And so you have to account for 1 billion years of radiometric decay and 1,000 years for the flood. That's called the heat problem. And it's just an unresolved problem in the rate study. I say the Young Earth Creationist project called RATE, Radioisotopes and the Age of the Earth, noted that the amount of heat produced by a decay rate of millions of times faster than normal during the year of the flood could potentially vaporize the Earth's oceans, melt the crust, and obliterate the surface of the Earth. And then my site vitamin 2007. This is a pretty significant problem for Young Earth Creationists, since if your model ends up in a, quote, everyone dies scenario, then your model is pretty terminally flawed. I would think that'd be the case. If we're still here, then your model's flawed. I go on to write, Dr. Joseph Merritt, a professor of geology in the University of Florida in 1996, did calculations to show that young creationism is an intractable problem. Professional young creationists came to this conclusion now as young creationist Dr. Humphreys resorts to invoking God as an escape hatch, taking creation science out of the realm of actual science. And he just started doing that not too long ago. He wrote about this in 2000. I want to say either 5 or 15. I don't remember the first time he wrote it. But I do know around 2015, he started changing his position that God just did it. God created the accelerated decay. That doesn't explain anything. If you want to posit accelerated decay to get rid of the heat problem, you need a scientific explanation for it. Invoking God did it is not a scientific explanation. Dr. Merritt's calculations show that the amount of heat produced from uranium-238, 235, thorium-232, and potassium-40 in the Earth's crust, that if decay rates were somehow faster, how much energy would be needed to account for in the 6,000-year-old Earth model is 65,000 centigrade per kilometer. And here's the thing, though. they're actually really saying that the decay rates had changed, not just things accelerated faster. I think they're actually arguing that the fundamental constant was changed by God, because if you read Humphrey's works, he argues that pions changed. The actual constant was changed. Not this thing's accelerated. Not this they said, hey, these are external factors, like electron capture would be an external factor. That means that the electrons are more near the more near the nucleon. And so the electrons are going to be attracted to the proton. The proton captures the electron, produces a neutron and a neutrino, and decays, that way. And so that particular type of capture will only happen in very specific conditions. Very specific conditions. And that's not changing the decay rate of the nucleus itself. It's not changing the fundamental constant. It's just allowing for a faster decay rate. You guys see the subtle difference there? There's a subtle difference between saying a fundamental constant has changed rather than under certain conditions it can change. For example, the constant of the speed of light is a fundamental constant. It does not change. But we do know that light can slow down in certain mediums. And so when light slows down in certain mediums, it doesn't change the fundamental constant, because the light speed is defined, literally prescriptively defined. It used to be different, but light speed is now defined as 299,792,458 meters per second. That is the definition of the speed of light. Prescribed definition. So when they're talking about the speed of light, they're saying 299,792,458 meters per second by definition as a universal physical constant. That doesn't change. But can something go slower than, can light slow down? Yes. Can something go faster than the speed of light? Yes, believe it or not. So long as the complete wave packet doesn't arrive faster than the speed of light, the front of the wave form for the quantum wave packet, the electromagnetic wave packet, can travel faster than the speed of light. It's called the leading edge, because no information is being conveyed. So relativistic speeds in special relativity allows for something to go faster than the speed of light as long as there's no information being conveyed. But the constant is still that particular number. That has not changed, nor can it change, that we have any reason to expect it did. And if it did, if the speed of light started changing or decay rate started changing, then all these other constants are going to be changing as well. Planck's constant, fine structure constant, Coulomb charge, electron charge. It's going to affect everything else in the universe. Basically, everyone dies scenario. If the speed of light changes and everyone dies scenario, permissivity, all these things are going to change. Fundamental, because there's a fundamental relationship between them. The speed of light is literally 1 divided by the square root of permittivity times permissivity. I think if I remember correctly. So the speed of light is reciprocal of the square root of these types of what's called natural units. So if the speed of light changes by qualitative analysis, the other factors, the other natural units have to change. There's no way around that. There's a qualitative relationship between them. This is one way you can determine if there's a relationship. Just look at a formula. Like E equals mc squared, right? Everybody knows that formula. If energy is constant and mass goes up, you can do qualitative analysis to say that C would have to go down, which we can't do, right? C is a constant. So if you put C as a constant, then if energy goes up, right, mass has down. Mass has to go up. Yeah. Right? If energy goes up, mass has to go up. There's a relationship there. There's a direct proportional relationship between energy and mass. Energy is condensed mass. So if you have an increase of energy, you have an increase of mass. If you increase of mass, you have an increase of energy. Why? Because the speed of light squared is a constant. Because this constant, which is C, squared, which is a constant. So any exponentiation of a constant is still a constant. I go on to say, in science, if you start with a hypothesis and you keep having to add ad hoc explanations to maintain it, finally resulting in having to just say, quote, God done did it, then you're no longer doing science, you're doing religion. The creationism is not science, it has never been science, it will never be science. It is a faith-based religious conviction that to many young earth creationists, no amount of actual science will ever make them realize that their initial hypothesis is false. This is the complete opposite of how actual science works. And I still don't know why I apostrophize. I don't know why. I have no explanation for that. I write these things pretty quickly. I don't proofread them very often. They're just Facebook posts, right? So I'm not really doing it to publish anything. Those are all people responding. But anyways, let's see what else we got in here. Oh, I went some polls. Like in this particular group, I asked I was like, are you guys getting sick of just these low-hanging fruit posts? Both theists and atheists. I mean, they'll post like a meme. Atheists believe the universe came out of nothing. Or, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And then, creationists will post, if they're still monkeys, how do we evolve from monkeys? That kind of crap, right? So I asked people what they really wanted. I asked, what would you like in these Facebook groups? And this is what I've been posting more of. More explanations. This one's hands down. More explanations of scientific concepts, how radiometric dating actually works using physics, how we calculate things in science. And so I've been trying to post things in a very basic kind of way. I don't get into a lot of the maths. I don't need to. I don't want to get in a lot of the physics. There's just no reason to. If people want to go verify that the science and the physics is correct, they can go do so. But just give an understanding of the topics about what a radiometric decay rate is. I don't have to get into that much mathematics relating to exponentiation to explain that if the half-life of something is 1 year, that just means that after 1 year, half of the substance is left, half of the material is left. That's it. So, but anyways, I am starting to feel me sitting here affecting me, and so I think I'm probably going to end it and lay back down and get some rest. It is Sunday, day of rest, right? Biblical day of rest. Unless you guys got some more questions, I'll stick around for a few. Audience out there, you guys have been really quiet. I haven't really checked out there. But I think I'm going to get some rest before I try to stream tonight. I still want to do a show on lucid dreaming on Non Sequitur. I was going to do it with Nikki 38, but she's been busy with family. And I've been having to postpone it, but I promised her that I would do with her, and I keep my promises, so I'm going to wait till she's available. And I was hoping she's available tonight, but I do probably have to lay back down. And I'm much more comfortable when I'm laying down, and I lay down a lot lately. So, anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'm sorry I'm not feeling well. I'm still trying to put out content, and I'm going to continue to put out content the best I can because I enjoy it, and it makes me feel better. And it's all about me right now. I have to focus on me. I don't mean to sound selfish. I don't, people are like, oh, look at Steve, the narcissist. No, it's just my health comes first, and everybody else can just F off. So good night, guys. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and let me know what you thought. I'm going to try to do these on Sunday afternoon. University of Unbelief University. I just kind of talk about these types of things on Facebook or other places where I run these arguments where I don't necessarily put them on my YouTube channel because I write a lot on Facebook and not everybody follows me on Facebook. I write a lot on my blogs and some other places where you may not see these types of arguments, but let me know what you think of them. Sound good? All right, guys. Thanks for watching and good night.